That's still others. Stupid. Okay.
Soludo. Solution abịago. Welu nwayọọ ga-edozicha ọnọdụ ka ọ dị mma.
Hello? Are you hearing me? Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Deputy Governor, the Speaker, Anambra State House of Assembly, the Deputy Speaker, and other members of the State House of Assembly, the Chief Judge, the members of the National Assembly, Major General Jinadu, AIG Agolo, the Commissioner of Police, and the other service commanders from the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, Civil Defense, NDLEA, and all the other para-Kwasai security agencies here present, the representatives and the heads in Anambra, traditional rulers, president generals, the women leaders, the youth leaders from all our communities here present, the mayors of the 21 local governments, as our local government chairmen, and the councillors from the 326 wards, our Lord Bishops, and all the members of the clergy, I see you, the youths, various leaders of the youth organizations here present, members of the State Executive Council, distinguished captains of industry. I see Akudo Chukulos here, and the amiable wife, my sister, and the other captains of industry here present. I think it is fair to say that Anambra is here. Our youths, I can see some representatives of our youth, the youthpreneurs, the youths who have been trained and empowered to take charge of their lives, and they themselves have become entrepreneurs and employers of labor. One youth, two skills. Solution is here. Let me, ladies, Umunnem Anambra, say a big welcome to all of you to today. Today is the 18th day of January 2025. Yesterday, the 17th day of January 2025, marked our 2 years and 10 months in office as Governor of Anambra State. Two years and 10 months. 2 years and 10 months in office. And true to our promise last month to take decisive actions on security, it is auspicious that we mark this anniversary and begin the new year with the events of today. Today's event, we've already done one. We have tripartite events. The first is to sign into law the newly passed Anambra State Homeland Security Law, which the State House of Assembly worked very hard on. We all worked very hard on this in the last few weeks, and I know in the last week and a half or 2 weeks, the State House of Assembly has been working day and night to fine-tune and finally reviewed and got this passed expeditiously 2 days ago. And we have just done the constitutional duty of signing that law, signing the bill into law. And so the first part of our events today, of the tripartite event, has been completed. The Anambra State Homeland Security Law has come to be and has come into effect. The second event is the formal launch of our Special Intervention Force, which we call Operation Udachi, and that is precisely what I am doing now, is the launch of that Special Intervention Force. Earlier this morning, we had to cut the ribbon and where we had the vehicles that are being rolled out today that will go into the streets of Anambra. We cut the ribbon, the first batch, and then I came down here, surprisingly as well, part of this force, which happened to be the new security architecture that we have, and I will speak about this in a moment. They were there also to welcome us to this venue. And so we are launching the Operation Udachi as well, and that is what I am doing now with this speech and the launch. And the third one will be to formally inaugurate the Anambra State Traditional Rulers Council. Because the traditional rulers have a vital role to play. And we've had the local government Traditional Rulers Council meetings, we've had the zonal meetings, and today, after we signed the amendment to the Traditional Rulers Law into effect on the 23rd of December, it is quite auspicious that we get the State Council working, because they have quite a whole lot to do with regards to our security, among other things. So, today, this event is the unveiling of the Anambra Homeland Security Law and the launch of the Special Security Operation Udachi. The Anambra security law and order remain pivotal to the attainment of our vision of a livable and prosperous homeland. The massive revolution by our administration in all sectors, which are appreciated by India Anambra, must be cemented with a robust security system with zero tolerance for criminality. I want to assure you that despite the unique challenges of lucrative criminality adorned with deceptive ideology and propaganda, we are determined to fight criminality and ensure that Anambra becomes the safest state in Nigeria. The Homeland Security Law 2025, which I signed a few minutes ago, the special operation we are launching today, Operation Udachi, deployment of technology, plus a gamut of other initiatives, especially the massive support of the federal security agencies and the citizens' collective action, constitute a comprehensive and sustainable response. The character and dynamics of criminality in the southeastern Nigeria have evolved and become hydra-headed. And so our response must be thoughtful, deliberate, and comprehensive, involving both kinetic and non-kinetic agenda. For example, ladies and gentlemen, the character and dynamics of kidnapping have evolved. I remember kidnapping for ransom, for example, is not new. I remember that in 2009, my then 78-year-old father was kidnapped, and he spent 15 days with his abductors in the bush. Earlier that year, The oil mogul, late Chief Anthony Enukeme, Tony Mas, was kidnapped. Chief Paul Okonkwo Pokobros was kidnapped. Chief G.U. Okeke was kidnapped, even abducted from the church. They were all kidnapped in the state, and many others. It was as if then Armageddon had come. My predecessor, Chief Willie Obiano, tackled the menace head on. And I would say, to a very large extent, insecurity was reduced. However, in about 20 months before we assumed office in March 2022, another strain or variant of the criminal gang under the guise of separatist agitation emerged with command and control centers. They killed policemen and soldiers at checkpoints and collected their guns. They attacked and burnt down many police stations. Sadly, most stakeholders kept mute. They set up camps in bushes and forests and labeled themselves as, quote, liberators. Most people did not pay attention, and very few people cared to ask how these people with arms will be feeding from month to month or year to year, or how they will be funding their operations. Finally, the chicken came home to roost. Initially, they turned on suspected politicians, killing innocent people without cause. We all recall the gruesome murder of Dr. Chika Akunyele and many others in a commando style, even in crowded places. Candidates for the 2021 governorship election could not campaign freely, especially in the South Senatorial Zone. And the candidate for Labour Party, Mr. Obiora Abasimalo, was kidnapped en route to a campaign event and has not been seen until date. No governorship candidate could hold a rally in Ihiala local government, and the election could not hold on election day in that local government. But because most of the kidnappings and killings happened during the political season, most of us misread the situation as being largely politically motivated. Facts emerged later to show that the problem was deeper and structurally more systemic. On assumption of office, we met almost a war situation, with 8 local governments literally under the total control of the criminals. We declared a state of emergency and responded massively. Held security summit, inaugurated the Truth, Justice and Peace Commission, which by the way has submitted this report and we began implementation. Engaged with multiple stakeholder groups. We offered to retrain and reintegrate those in the bush if only they will surrender their arms, and many other initiatives. We set up the State Vigilante Strike Force structure that worked with the federal security agencies to root out criminals from our forests and remote areas. Within 12 months, we recovered the 8 local governments that were under total siege. I must at this moment commend all the security forces, armed forces, the police, all the security agencies, including our brave vigilante squad as well. And at this moment to remember all those who paid the supreme sacrifice in the cause of duty, and all those who continue to pay the supreme sacrifice in the cause of duty. May their souls have eternal rest. But it is one thing to remember and pray for them, but more importantly, to be sure that they did not die in vain. And the only way to ensure and say never again is that we must rise up and make sure that the reason they died does not continue and will not repeat, and that's why we are here today. Over time, in the Anambra, some of the criminal elements returned to some of the locations. Several of the diverse criminal gangs and camps claim to be Biafra agitators. But the IPOB has repeatedly issued multiple statements, press statements, dissociating itself from the criminals in the bush. But one Simon Eber, with his organized criminal gangs, continue to wreak untold havoc, with kidnapping for ransom as their main source of financing. From the thousands of arrests so far, about 70% of these criminals are not from Anambra State. We understand that they flock to Anambra because, as I understand, Anambra, they say, is where the money is. Second, kidnapping for ransom quickly became the most lucrative criminal enterprise, better than drug trafficking or oil bunkering. The National Bureau of Statistics reported that about 2.2 trillion naira was paid as ransom in 2024. We estimate that for every 1 naira reported, that probably about 5 to 6 naira were not reported. And if you calculate this, this would indicate that more than 10 trillion naira was paid as ransom in 2024. Ladies and gentlemen, no sector of the economy with little capital investment could muster that kind of revenue or return. With no capital, little or no capital. With a culture that celebrates wealth without work and does not ask people for their source of livelihood, even kidnappers and drug barons are also celebrated in our society. So the character is evolving. And besides kidnapping and armed robbery, there are other related challenges which reinforce each other. Cultism, drug epidemic, land grabbing, and touting. You add to these the warped ideology and value system that increasingly celebrates magical wealth, egombute, plus the resurgence of criminal idolatry, which offers the criminals a sense of invincibility, hence their daredevil, brutal activities. Idolatry is now the fastest growing religion in the Southeast. Because these criminals in the bush have converted to idolatry, there is a serious clash of religions to the extent that it is no longer sacrilegious to kidnap men of God or even reverend sisters. That's how low these guys, have gone. Nothing is sacred anymore to them. And the attack on the church is real. Because there is a clash of religion now. Our various security agencies, the police, the DSS, the Army, the Navy, Air Force, Civil Defense, as well as our vigilante and other special forces are doing their best to confront these crimes under the existing laws. But in the Anambra, what has become evident is that for systematic long-term solution, we need to strengthen the legal framework as well as the institutional organization, logistical capabilities, social re-engineering, and citizens' mass action. The Anambra Homeland Security Law 2025 attempts to provide a framework to progress along the above pillars. It not only establishes our new vigilante architecture, and in the Anambra, like in the Southwest, I think they call their own security stuff Amoteku. Here in Anambra, the new law, Homeland Security Law, our own vigilante service, is called Agune Chamber. Called Agune Chamber. If I tell you Agune, you get what here. Well, it not only establishes the Agune Chamber, but also provides a framework for community and citizens' ownership and participation in the sustainable security and social re-engineering of our homeland. Agune Chamber at the community and local government levels underscore the point that most cases of insecurity are local. The State Agune Chamber is a strong strike force, intervention force that will be agile and mobile, underscoring that effective kinetic architecture will require a simultaneous interplay of both bottom-up and top-bottom forces. In sum, Agune Chamber assists and complements the federal security forces, especially the police. But on the Anambra, I want to remind us all that brute force will probably address about 50% of the challenges as the first and necessary first step. We can't defeat warped ideology and value system with guns alone in the long term. Over the medium to long term, we need to redeem the soul of our society by reinventing our fundamental values of enterprise, hard work, compassion, and integrity as the foundation for sustainable security, law, and order. We will not only revamp our civic and social reformation campaigns, but also seriously reward and celebrate those who distinguish themselves in the virtues that define us. A society ultimately becomes what it celebrates. We cannot allow the 0.01% of our society who are criminals to define the 99.99% of us. Ndi Anambra are known for enterprise and excellence, and we must completely take back our homeland. We invite you to read the new law carefully. It should be the handbook for every citizen and resident of Anambra State. It should be discussed in schools, in markets, in churches, communities, motor parks, and everywhere we gather, we should be discussing this new homeland security law because it provides a handbook to making a beginning to reclaiming the soul of our homeland. We should deepen and strengthen what we are doing that work so far. For example, the Anambra State Special Anti-Touting Squad, aka SASA, a body formed in October 2023, is largely living up to its established mandate, which requires that they get touts off the streets, transport, environment, and markets, and is on the stranglehold mission on these touts and drug peddlers. They have picked over 3,000 of such criminals. Open work and environments can breathe better now. We shall work with the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency to implement the National Drug Control Master Plan, which is a comprehensive framework for controlling drug-related issues across the country, towards developing a formidable strategy against drug-related crimes across the 21 local government areas and communities in the state. Let me assure you that the new Homeland Security Law requires the forfeiture of any property used for the manufacture, use, or sale of hard drugs. To forfeit such a property to the state government. And if we get such a property, be it any house or whatever, we will take it over and we'll demolish it. Drug is the major epidemic nationally, and here in Anambra, we are launching, with this launch today, we are going to have zero tolerance for anybody peddling drug or selling it in Anambra. If we catch you in a building, we will pull down that building. I have signed a number of relevant laws that will facilitate prosecution of touts and drug dealers. We know that drugs happen to be in the exclusive list, and so federal officers doing their own best we'll be working, but we'll be working in collaboration with you. For us here in Anambra, drug thing has become almost like a property offense. If you peddle it, any property where you stay to peddle it becomes a state property. Today, We're launching the Special Intervention Force, codenamed Operation Udachi, which translates to Operation Peace Shall Prevail. It must prevail in Anambra. This special intervention as an emergency action complements regular policing. It's a complement to regular policing work by upscaling intelligence gathering, rewards whistleblowers, enhances rapid response, and also to urgently root out the criminals from any and every camp in Anambra State. It will also have special forces on drugs, outing, cultism, and criminal idolatry. We will ramp up our civic and social reformation, and we invite the clergy, and I'm glad you are here in good number, the communities, the teachers, social crusaders to join in this campaign. They will be active in all nooks and crannies of the state with patrols and pin down and stop and search operations as necessary. The pin downs and stop and search may cause some inconveniences to the citizens, but we implore you all to bear with us. We are investing heavily in logistical support. This morning we unveiled about 200 vehicles made fit for purpose to aid operations, and many more will be procured very soon. The special force will have more than 2,000 personnel. More than 2,000 personnel dedicated specifically under this special intervention force. And that's in addition to the regular work of the armed forces and our community-based vigilante. And so from the Army, and this special 2,000 personnel is drawn from the Army, the Police, the Navy, the Civil Defense, the DSS, yes, from Agune Chamber team, plus other special forces. We are mainstreaming technology. We have installed best-in-class tracking system now in the state, and we had the test run 2 days ago. We're also in placing a command and control system which enhances the use of voice, video, and data in security management, deploying AI-powered surveillance cameras, which we intend to cover most of our communities very soon in Anambra State. Our state call center is enabled with toll-free lines of 5111 and 080022 00008. I mean, you will get these numbers, and these numbers are also put out on the vehicles, so every citizen of Anambra can have these numbers to call. Another platform run by the NCC, Nigerian Telecommunications Community, has a call line of 112 for emergency communication. Operation Udachi shall also be supported by the state's recently established independent communication network, which enables security personnel to communicate flawlessly using walkie-talkies. We need people in the communities to give information to security agencies. Where you feel information given will be used against you, relay such information through our phone lines in Anambra State Call Center. We will be reissuing some of the earlier numbers that we gave during the big battle of 2022 that are actually also around me, around the security officers, around me 24/7 that citizens can also call. We will also be reviewing possible assistance to the existing correctional centers in Anambra to expand their facilities, and will embark on building the state's own correctional centers. In partnership with the federal government, communities, patriotic Indian Anambra, and corporations, we intend to gradually rebuild the 28 or so divisional police offices that were burned down by the hoodlums. Let's begin. The Anambra, we have signed a new law. Let's begin the implementation immediately. We call on all communities, traditional rulers, president generals, etc., to read the law and set up the relevant security governance structures urgently. We plan to start paying monthly security support grant to communities to augment their investment in security. I know each community has its own brand of agony chamber, what you call the vigilante. And, you know, many communities are funding this heavily. And I know several communities. I've spoken to quite a number of people, particularly during the last, the Christmas that just went, when many people felt that Anambra had massive, great mass return all over. And each community now claiming to be, many communities claiming to be the safest community, not just in Anambra. Some even tell me they're now the safest community in Southeast. But I think that spirit must continue. But what we will be providing is some form of a grant or, you know, our own contribution to support what you are doing, because we know that the respective communities are making heavy investment in security. The mayors of respective local governments should also act urgently. We will work with the Commissioner of Police and DSS to identify the top 10 local governments with history of violent crimes. As communicated to the DPOs and the area commanders in a meeting we had yesterday, we will, and CP, I think you said, we'll get the list. We'll know them today, tomorrow. We'll have those 10 local governments that have the greatest challenge of violent crimes. And our reward system will be that in any month, for each of them, any month that any of them records zero violent crime, will have a cash award of 10 million for each of those local governments. If the 10 of them record zero, that will be 100 million, isn't it? Yeah, in a month. In the meantime, we will map out, communities, the communities of high incidences, and will design their own reward system. In the meantime, we encourage each community to design and execute its own cleansing and restoration program. It's almost like, for many communities, it will come to the kind of a thing that I remember that happened sometime in the 80s or thereabout, Boys Oh Yeah phenomenon, where the people on some other places, the communities come together and they do all manner of things, and everybody, if you know you are a criminal or not a criminal, you do this or you don't do this. The communities have their own ways of sifting out these criminals, because these criminals live amongst us. We encourage each community to take its own and execute its own cleansing and restoration program. A partnership of the church and traditional institutions and town unions might aid the process. For whistleblowers, anyone that gives us credible information that leads to the arrest of any kidnapper, or information that leads to rounding up of criminals in a camp, will be paid a bounty. We will pay them. If you take us to this camp, give us information, point to the guy who is it, and we grab him and we interrogate and find out that it is true. We will pay you we'll pay you for the information, for your assistance, up to a maximum of 5 million, depending on the type of the criminal. Depending on the class of the criminal, we'll pay you. Point to the man, show us the guy, we'll come and pick him up. Are you? So, if anyone is there, if anyone is your neighbor, just wink at the person, we'll come and pick him up. and you have something to go home with. I can see many people are going to make money out of this one. Ụmụnne m ndị Anambra, before we conclude, let me reiterate our extension of hand of friendship and amnesty to kidnappers, cultists, drug dealers, and other categories of criminals to surrender themselves with their weapons, and our government will ensure that they are rehabilitated and empowered to become productive citizens. All persons wishing to take advantage of this window should register at the office of the Special Advisor to the Governor. As I announced last month, this window remains open until February 28, 2025. If you want to surrender, surrender. No questions asked. Surrender your guns. We will take you, rehabilitate you, give you skills, and give you funds to begin a new life. I want to remind our youths who are in the bush that there is nobody who has lived a long life by living off arms and criminality. Nobody. Because those who kill with a gun also do what? Die with a gun. It's an end game. It takes you nowhere. It's short and it will end. Now you have a window of opportunity. Come out. We will help to reintegrate you into the society. But where you refuse, stay there. We are coming. Let me now thank all citizens and friends of Anambra State who have contributed to the State Security Trust Fund. I salute the courage of some clergy who have stood up to call out the systemic monster that is upon us. I want to also appreciate all those who devote their time, talent, and resources to the security of their various communities. I salute particularly those from Ihiala local government. Currently, we have 4 pre-on-board FOB stationed in various locations in Ihiala local government. There are ongoing clearance operations, and we are determined that the people of Ihiala, particularly of Ebonesie, Osumohu, Lilu, Iseke, Mbose, and others, and indeed the entire Ihiala local government, must be totally liberated from these criminals. And going forward, we are coming. We are coming with determined and structured force. Even if we have to declare the place a war zone, we are coming with a war plan, and we must defeat them. We must rid them of the place. But we need the cooperation of the people. I thank the federal government and the various security agencies for their commitment and support in this struggle to rid our state of organized armies of criminals. They are there in many of these communities, at Mbose, at Lilu, laying IEDs all over the place, even cutting roads that were built so that people will not be able to drive by to come to where they are. But none of this would happen. There is no community that they can succeed in doing this without the complicity of the indigenes of that community. And this is the point that we want to make. Several communities went there and fought, and they are free. Upo used to have about 3 camps. When we had the war of Upo in 2022, the community also rose up to the occasion. And today, Upo is certainly one of the safest communities in Anambra State. We can go on and on and on. I just use this illustration because that's a typical place that they had 3 major camps when we assumed office, where some of the biggest social events took place at Obo during this Christmas. Even in Ihiala local government, which was totally no-go area, several parts of it, I mean, the biggest social event that I think happened in the southeast of Nigeria in 2024 happened at Uli, this last Christmas period, with our friend Dr. Ojako's daughter's marriage that brought the entire world to Uli, that was supposed to be in a no-safe area. But the Ebonesie area, particularly, Ebonesie, Lilu, Mbose, Iseke, Osumohu, and so on, where we must have measured, consistent, and persistent intervention. But the citizens themselves must rise up to take back their communities, as the case may be. To conclude, in the Anambra, I want to remind us that security is our collective responsibility. Government alone cannot do it. Federal security agencies alone cannot do it. Sustainable security in our homeland requires full-scale involvement of responsible citizenship. These criminals are our brothers, sisters, husbands, relations, friends, and others. They are not spirits. They live amongst us, and we know them. The fact is that 99% of these criminals arrested in Anambra since my 34 months in office are Igbos. The false narrative that these are Fulani headsmen and so on and so forth has not been borne out by the evidence of what we were saying. It's just lucrative criminality. Lucrative criminality. People are going to do this for ransom. They're just going into it to make money. Full stop. Any other narrative is just to confuse the matter. This is what it is. It is criminality. And there are Igbos on Igbos. Igbos killing Igbos, not any other thing. And for us, we are fighting a different kind of organized armies of criminals, a kind that Anambra has never seen before. But we must prevail. We must all collectively confront the warped ideology and agitation that lead many amongst us to view security personnel as the enemy and the criminals as the liberators. Those who contribute food and money and send to the criminals in the bushes are part of the problem, and we will begin to treat them as collaborators and criminals. I call on everyone, the town unions, the clergy, the traditional rulers, and all civil society organizations to join in deconstructing the dangerous narratives that legitimize this criminality. For our long-term survival, we must rise up and fight together. If you see or know something, say or do something. Silence means complicity. Complaint is not enough. Every resident or citizen of Anambra must every day ask him or herself, what have you done today to enhance the security and prosperity of the homeland? Only collective action will guarantee sustainable success. On our part as government, be rest assured that we are determined to take the criminals head on and quadruple our efforts in security. We are ready to fight. The next few months will be turbulent. The criminals will seek out and strike at soft targets to test our will. We are in a marathon race and not a sprint. In the next few weeks and months, they will come out just to harass and to intimidate, to cause havoc, to put a damper to the initiative, all in the bid to scare us. We've seen that before. We saw that in 2022, but they finally gave way. And just like they gave way later part of 2022, they will give way now, and they are going to give way permanently. This is a marathon. It's a marathon race because it will require not only the kinetic brute force, but a medium to long-term social re-engineering to reclaim the soul of our society. Almighty God, who sees our hearts and works, will grant us victory. And in the end, Anambra will win. God bless Nigeria. God bless Anambra State. And thank you very much.
Tony, Mr. Solution.
Mr. Solution.
Yes. Solution abịago na Anambra State. A na-ekwekwa na-eme.
Oyobu.
Yes.
Yes, please be seated. The Anambra, with this, now the Operation Udachi is formally launched and we are swinging into action. And as I said at the very beginning, that everybody, we need our communities to come strong. We need all the social structures that make us who we are to come on board. Our PPCP, Public-Private Community Partnership, which is a model that Anambra has used for decades to prosper and be distinguished. We are calling upon that particular model to action now. Everybody has something to do. And that takes me to the third part of the event today, and which is the inauguration of the State Traditional Rulers Council. The inauguration of the State Traditional Rulers Council. Because the traditional rulers, as the fathers in their respective communities, who become patrons and so on of our security structures and guidance, the security systems we have in the communities will need their fatherly guidance and leadership. And I'm sure that when they come together as traditional rulers, they will also share experiences in the various communities and how it goes and how we can collectively overcome. Prior to now, the local government traditional rulers council meetings held. The zonal, that is for each senatorial zone, they also have the traditional rulers council, they also met. But the state council has not been meeting for a while. And the reason is simple. Sometime last year, we then discovered that the composition of the council, the law that actually enabled the establishment of the State Traditional Rulers Council, provided for 11 members from each senatorial zone. And then the chairman, the deputy chairman, and secretary, making a total of no more than 36. And the same law provided that each member so appointed will serve for only 4 years and could be reappointed for a maximum of another 4 years and no more. The implication of that was that as you looked at the composition of the then State Traditional Rulers Council, we discovered that over 90% of the people who were there had spent more than 8 years in the council, which was contrary to the law, meaning that their continuing stay in the council was illegal. And so we then thought about, and of course the number of people there were 50-something, contrary to the law that put a maximum of 36. And so the then existing council was, if you say, largely illegal and contrary to the law. But we set up a committee to review the law. We were faced with a dilemma of selecting a few and leaving out the rest. And then the criteria that you use to select them. And then the issue of term limits. If we were to implement the existing law then it would have meant that 98% of the members of the council would have been all out. And that would have robbed the council, in our view, of several of the experiences of the more very senior traditional rulers. And so we had a committee, including representatives of the traditional rulers, to review the law. And subsequently, some of the provisions there of the new law, gave the governor two options. The House of Assembly passed the law in December, and I signed it into law on the 23rd of December last year. Now we are in the new year for execution. The new law now gives a governor two options. Option A, to constitute all members, all traditional rulers as members of the State Traditional Rulers Council. And there are just about 150 of them, probably, about 150. Or, in alternative, select any number. He chooses any number, but equal number from each zone. But for me, in exercise of the powers granted under that law, I am opting for option one, the first option, in the spirit that we need the collective wisdom of all the traditional rulers to serve in the State Traditional Rulers Council. So, for me today, going forward, all recognized traditional rulers. All certified traditional rulers in Anambra are first and foremost now under that law constituted as members of the Anambra State Traditional Rulers Council. Subsequently also, the law provides an institutional mechanism for the chairmanship of the council. And that is, provides for the council, the chair of the council, to be rotated among the three senatorial zones of Anambra. And by consensus, everybody agrees. I actually spoke to the former chairman, Abogidi, the Obi of Onitsha, last night, and he also confirmed that the appropriate zone to produce the next chairman of the council is from Anambra Central Senatorial Zone. And so there is a consensus about that. And the tenure, as prescribed in the law, is for a tenure of 3 years. And anybody could be extended for 1 additional year in extraordinary circumstances. And so, in exercise of that, I've consulted very widely, both amongst Ndigwe and several others in authority and those to know. And the governor, as you knows, to appoint the chairman of the Traditional Rulers Council. And I want to announce that in exercise of the powers under that law, I have the pleasure to announce that from today going forward, that the chairman of the Anambra, I've so appointed the chairman of the Anambra State Traditional Rulers Council in the person of Igwe Chidubem Iweka, as Iweka the third. As Iweka the third, the Igwe of Obosi. The Igwe of Obosi is the new chairman of the Traditional Rulers Council. And going forward, we then ask that the council, according to the law also, the deputy chairmen are automatic. They are the chairman of the 3 zonal councils. Each chairman of each zone is automatically the vice chairman, representing the council in the executive, and then the secretary will be so appointed. Ladies and gentlemen, I think with this, a tripartite event, the signing into law of the Homeland Security Law, the launching of Operation Udachi, and the inauguration of Anambra, I want to now say, with the chairman so named and appointed, that the Anambra State Traditional Rulers Council is hereby inaugurated. And they can now begin to work. We are doing a beautiful, I must tell you, revered traditional rulers. We are breaking the 33-year-old jinx, building what somebody has described, not just a government house, governor's lodge area. We're building almost a new city in a 23-hectare piece of land. That includes the amphitheater, a world-class, I think the biggest in Nigeria that we have. And we're also getting a befitting place for the traditional rulers and your offices within that same complex, so that the entire governance, traditional and formal, we are all sitting together. So the traditional rulers and the governor will all be sharing one building as we get on there in time to come, so to speak. Anambra will win. It's now my pleasure, honor, to wish you all, ladies and gentlemen, to all those who have come, appreciating you once more. Let's get to work. Let's get to work. Everybody has something to do. We are in a haste, and sooner or later, I think, not much noise. We didn't discuss much details about what we are going to be doing. All we want is results. And in the Anambra, we'll continue to see results going forward. Thank you, and God bless Nigeria. God bless Anambra State.
Call him Mr. Solution. Solution is here.
Yep, Mr. Solution.
It's not just by talking. This is action. Can you put your hands together for Professor Chukuma Charles Soludo, CFR, Mr. Solution.